I made one sarcastic joke about his jealousy. He slammed the door and disappeared for hours. Then our apartment caught fire at 3 a.m., and I found divorce papers in his laptop bag at the hospital. Turns out my husband had been lying about everything. Ethan Foster rarely needed an alarm. His mind woke him before the first trash truck rattled down. West 75th Street flipping through unfinished lines of code, overdue bills, and what if scenarios while dawn was still a rumor. The habit began in Akron, Ohio. The summer his father was laid off from the tire factory. One week it was coupons for groceries, the next week boxes for the house the bank reclaimed. The morning they moved, Ethan watched his mother tape newspaper over broken windows, so the sheriff would not see inside. Preparation beats panic, she whispered without turning around. That sentence etched itself into his bones. Every dawn after felt like a quiz he had to pass to keep the roof overhead. At 10, he delivered circulars before. School at 12, he fixed neighbors' dial-up modems for $5 an hour. At 14, he built a Jurassic Park fan page, copy-pasted banner ads, and earned $50. The check arrived on the same Thursday. The electric company hung a shut-off. Notice electricity or groceries. His mother chose electricity. Ethan chose a promise I will never let us sink again. Library Wi-Fi became his second parent. He devoured C programming books, borrowed 3 at a time, max aloud, and taught himself to build small games. He sold the sprites online for pocket money, learned PayPal before cafeteria algebra, and marked each tiny deposit on a sheet of notebook paper with a mechanical pencil. The sheet lived in a plastic binder titled Freedom of Full Scholarship. To Stony Brook came with free linen sheets, a meal plan, and an industrial-size imposter syndrome. He answered it with black coffee, overnight tutoring shifts, and an economics minor because code might pay the rent, but understanding money would keep the lights on. Senior year, he met Claire Michelson, two perfectionists orbiting the same vacancy they scheduled. Library dates rated productivity by chapters read. They broke up politely after graduation. Ethan filed the memory like deprecated code useful, only as Reference 26 brought a junior developer role at a Wall Street fintech startup. His name on a lease, his fridge finally full in a city that charged for the privilege of breathing. He attended a single origin coffee tasting to impress a manager and admitted he could not tell Sumatra from Houseblend. The woman beside him laughed. That laugh belonged to Amara Clark, and it cracked something guarded inside him. Amara learned self-timing the same way runners measure splits. Snowbound suburb. Of Syracuse scholarship stressed 2 bus transfers to a campus job in the admissions office. Her mother Eliza, a night shift nurse, kept optimism on drip feed and taught Amara that looking pressed and polished gave people fewer excuses to deny opportunity. Marketing became her language of control, turn grit into gold, words into want. Loans chased her to Manhattan, but she climbed agency ladders by translating chaos into color-coded slides. Clients called her unflappable. She called herself tired but proud. 4 years after the coffee tasting, Ethan and Amara married in a community garden strung with borrowed lights. Their vows were handwritten promises to tell the truth, even on ugly days. They framed those vows, they dried the bouquet, they adopted a rescue cat named Macro, and wallpapered their phones with a photo of the Hudson at sunset. The apartment they rented, small but with pre-war moldings, felt earned, not given. For a time the universe hummed. New furniture delivered on discount weekend. Ethan rose at 6 wrote elegant server code. Amara caught the 1 train downtown, pitched global campaigns, and came home with plant cuttings. She teased him about forgetting protein in dinner. He teased her about reorganizing the spice shelf for sport. On Sundays, they shopped at the farmers market, trading jokes with vendors while Macro dozed in a canvas tote. Then the merger came. 8 weeks ago, Ethan opened Slack expecting sprint notes and instead found a calendar invite. Exit interview, severance 4 weeks. Optional career counseling 1 hour. He stared at the monitor until the cursor blurred. Severance would cover exactly 1 rent payment, no more. He walked the High Line that afternoon, counting rivets, stalling the call to Amara. Pride stitched his mouth. Shut! He could not watch disappointment bloom behind her eyes. Instead, he polished his shoes. Each morning rode the elevator down and walked to a public co-working lounge with a day pass hunting job boards under fluorescent lights, praying no neighbor would recognize the charade. The lie multiplied therapy sessions for panic attacks. He booked under lunch hour banners. He ate cheap dumplings in park corners, scrolled Indeed until battery died. Rejection emails piled like snowdrifts. He met Claire twice. For coffee, desperate for referrals. Mortifying, yes, but humiliation felt safer than risking Amara's faith. Amara thrived on momentum. 3 new clients in Q2 travel vlog gear, pitches scheduled theatre tickets months in advance. She organised friendship. With Google Sheets, Mia Harper and Rachel each colour-coded. She was the colleague who sent pastry when someone's deck crashed. The friend who texted meeting code words during boring dates. Success tasted like coconut milk lattes and manifested as potted. Herb's Art Prince Premium Olive Oil. She curated her life the way others curated playlists. Confident details could anchor stability. Thursday night arrived humid river air pressing against brownstones. Amara sorted dresses across the bed. Navy wrap floral. Midi discarded whatever looked dated. She landed on a black sheath, hugging hips, showing shoulders, perfume dabbed at wrists. Ethan leaned on the doorframe, eyes tracing silhouette, admiration knotted with dread. What if her friends asked about his job? What if the lie cracked? "That dress seems a little fancy for drinks with your friends," he said, aiming for playful. His tone spilled worry. She misheard judgment. She met his gaze in the mirror. "It is called having fun. Ethan, besides, I deserve to feel good. Once in a while, right?" Severance visions flashed before him, bank balance melting like ice in July. "I guess I am wondering why you need to look that good for a random Thursday. What is the point?" Her laughter came forced. "Come on, do not tell me you are. Jealous. Maybe I am dressing up in case I meet someone better." The line was meant as banter placeholder affection, but it detonated the dam holding his fear. "If that is how you really feel, maybe you should go find someone else," he said, voice steady hands. Shaking, he stepped into the corridor and the deadbolt clicked. Amara stared at wood heartbeat loud as taxicab horns. She typed a message to Mia, "Be there in 10, and walked away before anger could turn her back. The bar on 9th blasted synth pop neon. Rose and teal painted faces. Rachel waved her over. Mia slid a margarita across. "You look amazing, but also like you slept in mascara spill." Amara relayed the quarrel, Harper suggested. "Insecurity." Rachel said, "Projection." Amara hid fear behind tequila until her smile cracked. Back home. Ethan waited on the couch, city glow revealing dark crescents under his eyes. "I am sorry for locking you out," he murmured. She crossed her arms. "Why did you react like that?" "I was joking, I never meant it. It is not only the joke. Sometimes your comments about promotions or where we are make me feel like I am failing." She recalled teasing him about her friend's husband's new bonus. The memory stung. She inhaled. "I did not realize I am sorry." The apology softened tension, but did not break it. They slept back to back their rescue, Kat choosing the spare room in protest. Friday noon, Amara wiped down Ethan's desk, intending to corral loose receipts. The bottom drawer stuck. When it opened, a folded slip tumbled out. "Hudson." Therapy associates individual session. Fear, anger, and guilt tangled. Therapy without her. She confronted him that evening, receipt shaking between fingers. He admitted panic attacks, anxiety about disappointing her, but still omitted the layoff and Claire, I'm drowning. I need to learn to swim before I drag you under. The honesty cracked her anger, but trust remained chipped. 2 mornings later, eating yogurt, he mentioned running into Claire. She works near the co-working space. We grabbed coffee closure, no big deal. The ember of doubt flared. That night, Harper texted a blurry photo, Ethan and Claire outside a Soho espresso bar. Thought you said he was homesick. The lie by omission felt nuclear. She confronted him. He confessed 2 coffee chats needed to remember. Why they did not work. You lied by silence, she countered. Because you would react like this, he whispered, pain raw. They slept in separate rooms again. Macro meowed at both closed doors. Monday dawn, Daniel Carter pinged, +1 for Metropolitan Health. Gala Thursday, need a friend who can handle small talk. She accepted before breath caught. Daniel had been college friend. Reliable shoulders, steady grin, always orbiting safely. A gown was couriered, sequin emerald heels, silver hair smoothed until reflection looked like magazine spread, not the woman who cried over drawer receipts. The gala dripped wealth, velvet rope string, quartet chandeliers, pouring light like expensive champagne. Daniel's jokes made her laugh, guilt trailing like perfume. Then she spotted Ethan across the ballroom, alone, scanning faces until he locked on hers. He approached tension wire tight. Daniel angled protective a palm at her waist. Polite greetings sharpened into barbs. Daniel said, "Takes courage to leave a masterpiece at home alone," Ethan replied. "Funny, I thought she was with a friend, not an admirer." A circle of guests pretended fascination with dessert spoons. Amara stepped between them. "I will not be a prize in your duel. Respect me or leave." She pivoted, heels clicking. Rebellion leaving both men amid glittering strangers. In the taxi, tears blurred skyline. Love had become territory when all she wanted was shelter. Ethan never came home. Night swallowed Manhattan. Amara assumed he needed air. She brewed chamomile, checked, phoned 20 times. At sunrise, his pillow was still cold, and his cell rang straight to voicemail, panic-edged vision purple. At noon, NYU Langone called, calm voice. "Are you the emergency contact?" Ethan Foster admitted. 3:17 a.m. collapse on subway platform. Panic attack with syncope stable, now sedated. Hospital corridors smelled of antiseptic memories. She found him pale, monitors chirping. She thanked the stranger who called 911 and the paramedic who wedged his laptop bag under her husband's head. In that bag, she discovered an eviction notice, 3 months unpaid rent final warning, and a printed email draft. Subject divorce options, unsigned. Shock pinned her 13 hours earlier. Chandeliers, debt forms, now needles and beeping lights. She sat tracing his. Icy knuckles, tears silent. He surfaced from sedation, eyes glassy. He rasped, "I failed you." She answered, "No, we failed each other, but I cannot fix lies I do not know about." He confessed everything. Layoff 8 weeks, severance gone day passes co-working. Rejection loops reaching out to Claire for referrals because he was ashamed of being jobless. She listened, anger and empathy, arm wrestling. The eviction notice cracked between them, a future on fragile paper. She whispered, "We face this together or not at. All make a choice." He nodded, tears pooling, "I choose us if you still will." Outside the window, taxis honked. Life kept moving, whether they shattered or healed. Amara inhaled hospital air, tasted of bleach and beginning. She did not know if forgiveness meant survival, but denial was no longer an option. They would leave the ward owing explanations to landlords, to each other, and to themselves, but owing no more secrets. Honesty for the first time in weeks felt like oxygen. They sold unused furniture listed on Marketplace, cut dinners out, traded streaming services for library DVDs. Amara revised her client slate, asked for rush invoices. Ethan accepted contract bug fixes at half rate. They attended therapy together once a week and separately on alternate Tuesdays. They posted sticky notes on the fridge. Name 3 things you trust about me today, and answered honestly, even if one day the reply was simply, you refill the cat water. Macro resumed sleeping between them. Amara learned to ask before joking. About salaries. Ethan learned that silence felt like betrayal, no matter how gentle he called Claire. Ended contact, forwarded her last email to Amara. Transparency, not confession. They framed a new promise under the old vows. Preparation beats panic, but love beats secrecy. On their 5th anniversary, they walked across the Brooklyn Bridge eating dollar ice creams. The city's still loud, still expensive. With rent current and interview lined for Monday, Ethan looked at Amara's sun hitting her face and whispered thank you for staying. She squeezed his hand once, no words needed. People passed bikes, wove taxis, honked. But for a moment it felt like sunrise back in Akron before the factory closed. A new beginning written in plain morning light. Weeks blurred into months as Amara and Ethan rebuilt their lives on a strict diet of honesty and coupons. Saturday mornings, once lost to brunch, now belonged to open-air flea markets where they bartered unused gadgets for cash and memories for tableware. They logged every receipt in a shared spreadsheet labelled oxygen, because numbers were the truest proof that breathing room was expanding. Therapy became a ritual like laundry. Each session sorting thoughts, rinsing blame, hanging truths out to dry Ethan. Landed a 6-month contract with a cybersecurity startup in Dumbo. A step sideways but forward pay covered rent, plus subway fare, hope covered the rest. He worked from a corner desk overlooking the East River, feeling his pulse match the tide. Disbelief haunted him every payday, as direct deposits arrived like unlikely birthday gifts. He fought the urge to hoard each dollar under his mattress, but allowed one indulgence, a refurbished road bike found on Craigslist. He fixed the brakes himself, pride. Gleaming under chain oil, Amara meanwhile pivoted her consultancy toward mental health tech clients, a choice rooted in empathy and enlightened self-interest. The category was booming. Investors loved a feel-good story that could still monetize push notifications. She led webinars on ethical marketing wearing thrifted blazers that looked boutique on camera but cost less than last month's electric bill. View counts climbed, speaking invitations followed, and within a quarter her calendar was full. Again, her thoughts sometimes flicked to Daniel's unanswered texts, but she let them expire unread. Spring painted Central Park in reckless green. And one golden evening, Amara's mother Eliza arrived for a visit suitcase wobbling behind her like a toddler. She drank the city in through hospital-tired eyes, marveling at scooter traffic and rooftop gardens. By the 3rd day, she confessed the real reason for her trip. Routine blood work had not been routine. Early-stage lymphoma treatment options were good, but expensive. She delivered the news with a nurse's calm, but the shake in her hands betrayed the daughter who still lived behind the scrubs. Ethan took a night shift in addition to days remote. A global client needed overnight monitoring. He convinced the startup to bill the hours. His sleep compressed into naps, his eyes ringed, but he told himself fatigue was a down payment on Eliza's remission. Amara offered to postpone a keynote in Austin. He insisted she go there futures required. Both incomes, fear, could not cancel ambition. The keynote exceeded everyone's expectations, even Amara's. She pitched dual language campaigns for a mindfulness app and landed a retainer that would make the oncology copay manageable. When she FaceTimed Ethan from the hotel, he looked proud and impossibly tired. She promised to book a couple's getaway once her mum finished chemo, a vow they repeated until it sounded real. 2 months into Eliza's treatment, an electrical fire ripped through the Upper West Side building at 3:12 a.m., sparking in the century-old wiring between the 3rd and 4th floors. Smoke alarms screeched, Macro yowled. Ethan jolted awake to black haze. Amara was in Syracuse helping her mother through the worst chemo. Round Ethan called her name once, twice. Coughing, heat, cracking, plaster. He stuffed the cat into a mesh carrier, grabbed the binder of passports and the one-framed wedding vow, because he could not bear to lose that promise again. Stairwells choked with smoke forced him onto the fire escape. He watched orange tongues devour curtains until firefighters drenched the windows in white steam. Amara drove downstate in borrowed scrubs, arriving at dawn to a cordoned sidewalk and waterlogged debris. Their apartment blackened, unlivable, the vows frame. Warped beyond repair, passports salvageable, everything else. Ash insurance would cover a fraction. Friends offered couches, but they needed someplace stable fast. Heat still radiated from masonry when a news drone buzzed overhead, capturing the moment. Ethan's knees buckled, grief and exhaustion colliding. Amara caught him whispering, "We can start again. We have before." But his eyes asked, how many times can a promise be rewritten before the ink fades? In the days after the fire, they slept on an air mattress in Harper's living room, their phones vibrating with donation alerts. Mia organized a crowdfunding page titled Rise for Amara and Ethan. By sunrise. The goal was met by noon. It doubled strangers from Amara's webinars and Ethan's open-source forums. Gave $10, 100 notes attached. Read, "I saw myself in your story, stay standing." An old colleague offered a furnished sublet in Long Island City. Month-to-month skyline view included. They moved with 2 suitcases, a borrowed coffee maker. And Macro's singed carrier, Ethan biked to Dumbo. In 10 minutes, Amara ferried across to Wall Street for meetings. The East River wind smelled of possibility and diesel. The stripped-down space felt raw enough to grow into therapy, resumed now centered on loss trauma and the fragility of plans. Their counselor, Dr. Levin, described grief as a thief that revisits unlocked doors. The lesson landed when Ethan froze at the hiss of a kettle. Steam curling like the fire's ghost, Amara found herself stockpiling. Toiletries as if bathrooms might evaporate. She named the habit preparedness. Not panic, but the line blurred at checkout counters. Eliza's chemo ended with cautious optimism. PT scans clear. Amara exhaled a month-long breath. She and Ethan booked 3 days in Cape May, off-season rates, empty beaches. They cycled the boardwalk, ate funnel cake at noon, and read mystery novels aloud. Each night ended tangled beneath thrift store quilts, body language spelling gratitude. Summer matured into heavy August. Heat, Ethan's contract approached renewal. A full-time offer loomed, but required relocation to Seattle headquarters, cross-country wages. Solid stock options tempting fresh start, whispered the brochure. But New York thundered louder in their veins, Amara's. Client base rooted in Manhattan events. Eliza still in Syracuse, the math of distance multiplied complications. They sat on the sublet balcony listing pros, cons, each bullet point overlapping until the page looked like abstract art. No decision inked only. The promise to decide together, Daniel resurfaced via LinkedIn, a polite request for coffee under professional guise. He now produced a podcast interviewing resilience experts. He wanted Amara's voice. Weeks of typing, then deleting replies, ended in yes, professional boundaries. Ethan supported the meeting, but a shadow crossed his face just once. Amara noted it, but said nothing. The cafe reunion was brief, friendly. Daniel praised her fire survival story. She praised his podcast growth. He asked if she would record an episode part of a mini-series on rebuilding. She hesitated, sensing her narrative becoming someone else's content, but accepted the invite. Then she left early, texting Ethan the moment she hailed a cab. Transparency, not confession. Recording day arrived in a Tribeca studio, glass walls, and silent producers. Daniel's questions probed deeper than the pre-interview had suggested, touching on marital trust, financial fear, and whether any love can survive repeated catastrophe. Amara answered honestly, surprised at the tremor in her voice. When the red light switched off, Daniel squeezed her hand longer than necessary. Gratitude or nostalgia, she could not tell. She drove home through drizzle, replaying the gesture like a skipped record. Ethan listened to the published episode. Alone, earbuds at midnight, Amara asleep. The part where she described carrying both of their dreams felt like a weight. He still made her lift. He closed the laptop, staring into streetlights, wondering if her resilience was partly forged because he kept breaking job offer papers. Arrived Monday morning, relocation package signed by date 1 week. Ethan left them on the counter next to a mug of tea. He planned a dinner to discuss marinade, chicken candles, even a crumble dessert, but Amara arrived late. Hair damp from rain, high on adrenaline, Daniel's podcast had hit viral metrics. CNN requested her for a panel tomorrow. She hugged Ethan, spinning news words, spilling Seattle paperwork forgotten. He kissed her. Forehead pushed celebration forward to tomorrow. The panel aired, live studio lights stung Amara's eyes. She spoke about honesty after disaster. Viewers flooded social media with applause. But one comment thread fixated on her ringless hand. She realized, with a start, she had removed her wedding band for makeup and forgotten to put it back. The image went wide. Daniel tagged her in a congrats post, cropping at her shoulders. Ethan saw the clip during lunch. Seattle HR waiting on his signature, doubt needled. Has our marriage become a subplot in her ascension? That night, storms pinned curtains to glass, the relocation deadline hours away. Ethan laid the packet on the kitchen table. The city crackled thunder. Amara set tea beside it, reading terms, salary double. Stock generous relocation, year rent stipend, silence stretched. She said, I built something here, clients depend, and my mum is almost in remission. Uprooting now means starting from scratch. He said, staying means short contracts, forever, risk like oxygen. She countered, risk built every chapter of our story. He asked how many chapters until one of us can rest. Voices rose, then stilled. Macro retreated under the sofa. Lightning flashed over Queens. They reached stalemate, each fearing selfishness more than failure. Finally, Ethan slid the packet across tear-smudged dateline and wrote respectfully declined choice, heavier than any burned belongings. He whispered, I choose us here. She whispered, I choose us too. Autumn moved in with crisp resolve. Amara's projects expanded enough to hire a junior associate. Ethan converted to salaried remote, staying in New York after a surprise angel investor opened a city office. The sublet became permanent lease. They painted walls, a daring teal-hung thrift store. Frames around new wedding vows inked during therapy sessions. Preparation beats, panic, love beats, secrecy, growth beats, geography. On the first anniversary of the fire they hosted, everyone who had donated friend or stranger a potluck picnic under Riverside Park sycamores. Ethan grilled bargain sausages, Amara passed cupcakes, each flavor labeled with a word: hope, bravery, restart. She toasted survival by community. Eliza danced with Harper under fairy lights. Daniel attended, offered polite congratulations, then left early boundaries intact. Winter's first snow arrived soft and deliberate. Ethan and Amara watched flakes gather on the balcony rail. He turned to her, hope flickering. Would you ever consider expanding our family? She looked at him, cat curled between them. Memories of flames, hospitals, spreadsheets crowded her chest. She whispered, maybe I am not afraid of more love, only of losing it. He nodded. I know maybe is enough for tonight. They stood there until snow silenced traffic and the future felt wide, unscripted, but navigable together.